Okay, just want to say good evening and welcome to another episode of Happy Hour, brought to you by NAAP, the National Association of Adoptees and Parents, where it is our mission to build unity in the adoption community and elevate our diverse voices by promoting dialogue, understanding, and healing through education, awareness, and connection. I'm Marcie Keithley, board member, along with several others with us this evening. We have David Bowl, Ridghaus, Barbara Robertson, Esturi, and Jennifer Falsing with us tonight. So welcome those board members. At this time, if you haven't, I think everybody's already on mute. And let us know where you're from in the chat bar. We're going to do things a little differently tonight. We've asked Amber Jimerson and Ridghaus to talk about conference, and we're going to talk about post-conference hangover and some of the highlights, some of the lowlights, and just have some fun this evening. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to the two of them. Feel free to jump in the chat bar with your comments and questions, and let's just have some fun tonight, okay?
Great. Thank you, Marcie. So we wanted to give you just a kind of a quick overview for those of you that weren't able to attend the conference. We started Thursday night with a brilliant guided meditation into rethinking the primal wound with Jeanette Yoff. And that was such a powerful way to kick it off. And I heard comments about that activity throughout the remainder of the conference. This was also our first time to try to do a hybrid rather than, run the risk of having too many people in rooms. And, we're still seeing some spikes in the pandemic. So we heard great comments. We heard some of the, some of the technical difficulties that we ran into. And as a board, we started that conversation about being able to offer that next year with an even better array of tools. So hybrid, people join online, people in person. Jeanette's was great. David did a fantastic keynote Friday morning to kick us off. And right in the middle of it, we had a fire alarm. So we all had to skedaddle while David just kept talking, because you just can't stop David, right?
Thanks, Ridge.
Great stuff. And what did we see? 4 fire trucks come. It was I don't remember exactly what happened, but they were taking it seriously. And then just great breakouts. Friday evening we had Brian's soft premiere of Ghost Kingdom, and what a treat to watch that with a group of Adoption Land. And Jeanette has rented out a place in Venice, and he's going to do another premiere out in California with that. So if you follow Celia Center or Brian Stanton, you can find out information about that. Saturday morning, Barbara and Jeanette did a roundtable panel discussion about, hey, let's talk about the things that we don't always get right. Yeah, great picture there. Except for that guy in the brown coat. But just the breakouts, the conference, the time after, the lunches, the breakfast, grabbing time with people. Conference is such a rich time for me. I missed it a lot. So I'm so thankful for the people that came, for the people that attended online, and the people that have reached out after. And that was one of the reasons that we wrote this article together, because I've been in conferences for years, and I always feel that letdown. I always feel the community, missing that community after. So great time. So that's kind of a thumbnail of the conference. So we want to give you our bios, talk about some conferences, talk about writing this article together, and then turn it over to you. Any tips that you find helpful for post-conference, and then any other questions you have. So thank you so much for attending. We're really excited about being able to share with you, and have this time with you tonight.
And I will say I am just a facilitator at heart, so I wish we could just have discussion and I could catch up with you guys. I see several familiar faces. So if you just, as we're talking, if you want to put in the chat just your experiences that you've had since the conference, things that have helped you or things you've found challenging, or if you've been to other conferences, I would just love to hear your stories, and hopefully at the end we'll have time for that discussion. But I'm gonna guess a lot of you don't know who I am. So this is my third conference, and technically I came into the adoption community as a birth mother 14 years ago. However, probably when my son was 7, I picked up the book 20 Things Adopted Kids Wish Their Adopted Parents Knew, and I was reading it as a birth mother, thinking this would help me to understand my son's experiences. And every chapter, I just realized this was my experience growing up. And I'm not adopted, although I was given a term at the conference. I'm so thankful that there's a label for me now, but there was a lot of separation and estrangement in my family. I grew up calling my biological mom my birth mom. I'd only seen her a few times growing up. I didn't know the names of my grandparents, and my dad was estranged from his family. So I really grew up primarily with step family. So after reading that book, I ended up, I have to search like many of you do, but I contacted people and was in reunion for a couple of years by the time I came to the first conference. So although my label is a birth mother, I feel indebted to the adoptee community because it was just this gradual realization of the effect that separation and loss had had. And so I feel like the things that I'm daily trying to heal from are these issues that we're all here for. So yeah. And then, so the first conference I met Ridghaus, and I was not prepared for the impact of that. And I don't know if anyone else has this experience, but
She means the conference, not meeting me.
I know,
The conference.
it's terrible.
Yeah.
No, I feel like putting a bunch of people together with maybe attachment issues and creating these new amazing friendships and relationships, and then having to say goodbye after a few days, that was really, really hard the first time. And each time I think I've had a different reaction, and each time I haven't expected it. I don't know when I'll learn, but so I think we were talking just about that need for decompression and just the difficulty of re-entry. I thought it was so interesting that I have felt that as a new conference member, but Ridge, you've been to how many conferences over how many years and have still found a need to process afterwards. How long have you been doing this?
Well, I think my first conference was 2011, 2012 Denver AAC. I don't know if anybody was there. And that's where I met Brian Stanton. But went to AAC for several years after that, went to AKA with Marcie Purcell and crew, went to California Adoption Conference, been to a couple of conferences that Jeanette's put on, and of course, every one of the IAN and NAAP conferences now. So several, over the last 10 years. A little about if you don't know who I am, I'm Ridghaus. I'm on the board with NAAP. I first entered adoption community as a biological father.
Beef and then seafood is what came in.
Oh, beef and seafood? Oh, okay.
Was it spicy?
I hope it wasn't spicy, but I don't mind spicy myself. I entered adoption land as no problem, man. I entered adoption land as a bio father, relinquishing a son when I was 19. And I didn't know at that point that I was an adoptee. It would be 18 years later before I found out that I was adopted. So within adoption land, I'm both a biological father as well as an adoptee and a late discovery adoptee at that. Yeah, I think that's a pretty quick bio for my entrance here. So I've been at conferences, over the past 10 years, and it's common for me to leave a conference and really miss that community. When I left Denver, for that first conference, I stayed in touch with a couple of the guys because we had a large men's group there. Brian Stanton was one of them. There was a monthly men's call that still goes on, and Luke manages that list. So if you're a male adoptee and you want to be on the monthly call, reach out to me or find Male Adoptee Alum Impact Summit, MAAIS, on Facebook, and just reach out to Richard Lobb. So I kept in touch with some of the men in the community at that point, but I still had this longing. I still wanted to be connected. So I couldn't wait until the next year for a conference. And I thought, okay, if I get enough time, with the tribe, then I'll be fine once conference is over. And I was just worse. It was a deeper dive off the cliff once the conference ended. So I started talking to people like Desiree Stevens and Kathy Coley, and I'm like, what are y'all doing to help yourselves after this? Because I want to schedule something next month. Let's just everybody get together. Brian Stanton calls it a faux con. It's a fake conference. We're going to say we're going to a conference. We're just going to a place and we're going to hang out for dinner and whatnot.
Which we should absolutely do.
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna faux con. I think I'm gonna faux con Cub coming up. I'm just gonna get a place near the hotel and hang out with all the people. And so I started to collect just little tidbits. And I found that a lot of people went through the same kind of reentry, where it was like you're in stellar kinds of fields, and now you're brought back down to earth, and you feel that heaviness, you miss the community. So I started to do some things for myself. And then when I was doing closing comments for the conference here, Kathy was in the audience and she got my attention. She's like, hey, you want to talk about decompression? You want to talk about the reentry? And I thought, you know what? I've accumulated some of this information over the last few years. Maybe it would be helpful for others. And Amber and I had been talking about that post-conference kind of letdown, reentry. And so as we started to talk about that, we thought, why don't we just write something, put something out there so that others may benefit from our experiences and the tips that have helped us. So Amber, do you want to talk about the process? Actually, do we want to talk about the 5 words?
Do you want to say the 5 words?
I'd have to find the article.
I know. I realized that I didn't look it up for a refresher before I came in here.
It's reach out, integrate, take care, breathe, and create.
Nice, Lori. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so reach out.
Which that's what you were talking about. I think staying connected with those friends that you've made afterwards. And the happy hours. That's been really helpful to me.
These have been
everyone on social media. It's been really nice. I'm trying to pull it up.
Well, and then Amber added integrate, and that's a really important thing. And it's something that I've discovered, over the past couple of years of. It's something that I did naturally, but I don't find that everybody does. Not everybody takes a minute to say, oh, wait, here are things that I learned. Here are things that kind of shifted in me. Where do they fit? So
I love writing. If you follow me on Facebook, not only do I love writing, I like to just put it out there for everyone to see, which has its pros and cons. But even if you are not, I know a lot of people don't enjoy writing or don't consider themselves, creative writers, but even just the simple practice of one, taking notes during the conference, because you come to this conference and there's just so much information. There's just so many talks and new information, or maybe you like make connections and you realize, oh, that relates to something in my, I need to process that later, but then the next talk has started and you've forgotten already. Even just jotting down notes throughout the conference. I brought a notebook, thankfully. I will definitely do that every time. But I used it not only for just notes, but also I tried to just notice things in myself, experiences that I was having in the conference, and write it down so I could come back later and really process and figure out what was that and where's that coming from. And so there was that. And then for me though, really, I think there is something about, you know, you've got this mess, like chaotic thing going on in your head and all the stuff that you haven't been able to disentangle. And it's really just destabilizing. And so for me, I set aside, I think the Monday after the conference, I pulled out all my notes. I wrote a whole bunch, just anything that came to mind, and just tried to process it, notice the patterns. What were like the biggest takeaways from the conference for me? It really solidifies like, this was the experience that I had at that conference, and these are the things I want to remember so they don't just get lost. And it was nice just to have that time. Oh, okay. To have that time to really just dedicate some time and sit with everything that happened and everything we learned and what I want to do with that, or whatever. So I really encourage, even if it's just for you, it doesn't need to be public at all. Just getting your thoughts on paper and taking some time, which requires not overloading your schedule after a conference. I think that should be another tip. Like, I was not smart. Again, third conference, I was like, oh, I'll just go and then I'll be totally fine. And so I booked my Sunday full completely. I didn't have a single moment, and I will not do that again. So just finding little spaces throughout the next probably couple of weeks to not overload yourself and just take it slow and sort of ease back into things if that's a possibility. So is there anything you wanted to add about that? I could go on and on.
No, I think that's great. Yeah, that's great. You know, Arlene, Kathy shared this because she said, hey, when are you leaving? And we were talking on Saturday in that kind of in between breakouts. And I said, I'm leaving Sunday morning because I needed to get back and, you know, just busy. And Kathy lost Arlene. For those of you who don't know, Kathy Kelly, her bio mom, Arlene, passed in January this year. And Kathy did a breakout, you know, on the reunion and the significance of Arlene in the community and to her. And she said that Arlene always arrived a day early and then left the day after the conference ended. So she said, you should integrate this into your life. And I'm like, yeah, I should. And I'm busy. Yeah. Sorry.
That is true. Schedules do not always allow for that, but if it's a possibility, I know this year having the Thursday night was so necessary for me. It was like an icebreaker and got me in the right mindset. I think earlier, I think maybe I wouldn't have been completely present all of Friday if I hadn't come Thursday night. So that was great. And then I was able to, I live like 10 minutes down the road. So I ran back Sunday morning and had breakfast with some of the ladies. And that was so nice just to talk before I had to rush off into real life. So.
Yeah. So I probably cheated on the take care, but I do think that it's important to take care of your body, you know, get rest, take care of your diet, because sometimes at conference you're just not paying attention to the things you're eating. You're just like, I need to eat because we got to get into the breakout, or, you know, I don't want to have, you know, a glass of wine and I have not eaten all day. That's not always a great combination, you know, starvation and wine. So I think it's important. So I was probably cheating with the take care, you know, A, B, and C, but there you go.
That's not cheating. It's one of those, a lot of these tips are so simple, and I think we just underestimate them. Like, oh, that sounds too easy. Like, breathe, you know, take care of yourself, eat food.
Yeah. Okay. So Those are the five. We're going to talk about them a little bit. Do you want to talk about the process?
You just cut out. What did you say?
Oh, I said, you want to talk about the process?
Well, I actually, do you want to?
Well, I started the thing and I had some tips in mind, but I didn't want this just to be about me because I'd share this information, with Kathy, with Des, with Brian, over conferences over time. And I knew that Amber had been journaling a bit. So I invited Amber to jump in on this so that, we could get a broader perspective. Because while I often talk like I know everything, I don't. And I know that I don't know everything. So.
And it'd be great to
I
hear.
always collaborating with people so that, yeah, go ahead.
No, I said it would be great to hear from everyone else too, just things that they found helpful and just add to we should just have this ongoing list of helpful tips.
Okay, I'll jump in here. For those who, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, good. So for those who, even if you can't take the days off, then try to organize, set some time before and after just to be alone with your thoughts like that. You gotta have some time to decompress and process like what Amber said, everything that's going on.
Great, Barbara. Thank you. Something else, do you have a tip that we didn't include?
What just happened? Are you trying to leave?
Yeah, no. Sorry, my iPad fell.
Oh yeah, okay. In the comments in the chat, Marnie said, for me, just recognizing the reason I'm feeling crappy after the conference is because it's hard to leave the space where you are seen and understood. Absolutely. I think that's actually, yeah, that was something I wanted to add. I think there's something about that space where you can just, well, I recognize some people have a lot of anxiety coming to the conference to begin with, but for I think a lot of people, it's just you can just be yourself and relax and you're understood and everyone gets it. And that's so refreshing. It's so refreshing that I think we have very little patience afterwards going back into real life with people who don't get it. It's just such a letdown, which I think is normal. I just giving yourself that space to realize, okay, I'm not at a capacity where I can deal with people that don't get it. So, but yeah, that's the best thing about the conference, I think. Oh, yes, podcasts.
Yeah, so what are some of the podcasts that people do listen to? Like if I know that I listened to several before I came in. What are some of the podcasts that y'all like to listen to within the community?
Someone has to say Adoptees On. Okay, yep.
Yeah, Adoptees
That's
On.
the best one.
Once Upon a Time in Adoptee Land.
Okay.
Yes,
well,
I second that.
Oh,
Once
yeah,
upon a
Jennifer's
time in
podcast.
Adoptee Land.
put these in the chat because I'm gonna save these. Okay. Okay, who am I really? Okay.
Lori, do you remember who hosts that?
Born in June, raised in April.
Yes, yeah.
Damon Davies or Davis?
Right.
Damon
yeah,
Davis.
Damon Davis.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Very cool.
I heard somebody say April Dinwoody's Born in June, Raised in April podcast, What Adoptees Have to Teach the World. And she's got a great one this month. Nam Holtz, for those of you that don't know Nam, she's a recent MSW, and she's working with Amanda Baden, working in transracial youth and other adoptee communities. So on Born in June, Raised in April this month is Nam, and Nam is a treasure. Any other podcasts we love out there?
Yeah, Michael, there's a new one called, oh, wait a minute, let me change to it. It's The Making of Me. And they just, yeah, it's kind of new, and it's pretty neat. They've, they do a 5 or 10 minute segment on the primal wound first. They're reading the book, and then they interview, an adoptee afterwards. So it's been very enlightening. So.
Do you know who the host or who the hosts are?
Yeah, let me change screens here.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, let me see. It's Louise Brown and Sarah Reinhardt.
Great. Thanks for that, Michael.
My pleasure.
Amber, do you have others? When They Were Young, Lenise Antoine, Shelley, Pulled by the Root, Heidi Marble. Great, Tina. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, great resources.
Yeah.
Any other podcasts that are loved that we're not hitting on yet? Thanks for throwing those in the chat or just speaking them. Yep, Once Upon a Time in Adoptee Land by Jennifer Diane Ghostin.
Brene Brown is great. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. How about other tips? What are some of the things that you all do when you get done with a conference? What's helpful for you?
I mean, that's solid advice.
Marty's not wrong.
I found following the conference.
Every day. I try to stay away from people every day.
Wow. Okay. On the one hand, all I want to do is talk about it. But then, like I said, I was around people a lot the following days, and people were super great. They were asking questions, but it was work because they wouldn't even understand why it was significant. I'd have to explain so much of the context to even get to the point where it was useful to talk about it. So I guess that goes back to staying in touch with people and sort of still being able to talk with people following the conference and sort of get that out of your system and not having very low expectations for other people, I think.
Well, I like what I'm hearing, because I thought I was a little bit alone in that, but now I can tell that I wasn't. And I had the experience of both speaking at the conference and attending the conference. So when people would ask me, how was the conference? I told them how I thought my presentation went. And that's what I wanted to focus on, but I didn't have that luxury with my wife, right? I had a 37-year-old healthily attached relationship with my wife. She wanted to know more. She wanted to know, how was your conference experience? What'd you learn? Who'd you see? And I just wasn't ready to talk about it. And I have to walk a very fine line and be very polite about it rather than saying, get away from me, I need time to process this. She gets it better than anybody, but at the same time, I felt a little guilty not talking with her. So I had to process that in addition to processing everything that I learned over the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I feel like and I don't know how much everyone's experience is unique, but for me, it's like there are two different conference experiences. There's the informational aspect. Your talk's amazing. And I think I probably just cried throughout everyone's talk. I'm sorry if you saw me, but, and then there's the relational aspect, which is like just as surprisingly, impactful. There's what you learn, and then the relationships and what you maybe learn about yourself through those relationships and just that experience. And so it's a lot. It's emotionally exhausting in a very worthwhile way, but it's just a lot. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Hey, Marnie, you want to go
I'd
ahead?
like to say, was somebody saying something?
No, go ahead.
Oh, Marnie.
Marnie? Okay, go ahead, Marnie.
So I've been thinking about this a lot. Lower my hand here. So I feel like most of my life, I have been craving attachment because I didn't really have it in my adoptive family. So anytime I would be in a situation where there would be connection and it would be feel so good, and then it would be over, and it was so hard. And like I went on the Camino with Pam Cordano's group 2 years ago, and I mean, it's intense. I mean, you're like day one and you are like in with those people and you're just feeling it and you're attached. And at the end, you have to say goodbye. And that's so hard. But, and you talk about the re-entry after that. And I think for me, the re-entry is so hard is because during these type of activities, you have that attachment that I've been craving, and then it's over and then it's hard, but I wouldn't give it up. I mean, I'd rather have that attachment during that short period and work on those relationships afterwards than not have it at all. So anyway, that's what I've been thinking about.
I can 100% relate. And I think the reasons why conferences are moving are different for everyone, but that was my experience with my first conference. And the effect that it had was like, it shattered my perspective on my real life. The way that I was received and the way that I felt among these people is not how I've been made to feel in my other communities. And so I think that sent me down on a spiral for a long time, questioning like, what am I doing with my life? And, you know, these things that I thought were something wrong with me, it was just like, no, in this other community, I'm a completely normal person. And it was really, really helpful, but then really difficult to be not bitter with some of my, I don't know, with my community at home.
Barbara, did you want to say something?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it was really helpful. I'd like to offer this. Adoption Network Cleveland, for example, does the virtual support group meetings. And it actually was very helpful to have that happen after the conference so that we had an opportunity to, you know, to decompress, to kind of share some things with other people in the constellation. So, you know, it was helpful because it at least allowed a few more days in between where, oh, more people that I'm in contact with that understand what I'm going through. So I like to offer that as, you know, maybe seeking out those type of communities after the conference, just as a buffer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what David Bull's whole talk was about, the importance and the power, the restorative power of community. And this is our community. And so that's one, I think one of my takeaways this year is like, I always want to go to the conferences, but this year I had this realization that I need to invest in this community continually and stay in contact with these people. It's just so helpful. We've got a lot of comments here in the chat.
Yeah, I think I remember Kelly had made a comment about being surrounded by, you know, people who got it. And I don't know if she wants to come on and say something about that.
Yeah.
I know I can talk about my first conference with male adoptees. You know, I had I had men saying, I feel like it's difficult to make connections, you know, to maintain romantic relationships. I feel like I'm giving everybody the push-pull. Like I just kept hearing men say things that I had experienced and thought, you know, I'm just broken. I'm just weird, right? And I don't know if I can't say I'm not broken or I'm not weird, but I can say it was helpful to know that here's a group that shares some of those experiences, and then we get a chance to talk about it.
Serious allergic reactions can occur, including anaphylaxis.
Kelly was going to speak up. Did you want to say something, Kelly?
Yeah, I was just going to say that it was my first time attending a conference, and it was kind of overwhelming to be surrounded by so many people who were also adoptees. I think it's someone at the conference said, I think it was Kathy Coley, maybe, she didn't know how much she needed it till she got there. And I think I sort of had the same sentiment, like it, especially I think in this time of pandemic where we've all been so socially isolated, but I think it was really, it was really moving for me. I think probably for everyone who attended, to be in a room with people who had that same life experience where you don't have to explain yourself and there's no assumptions made. They just kind of, everyone just kind of gets it.
Yeah.
Quickly, show of hands. Anybody never attended an adoption conference before? Like, just raise your hand icon.
Virtual hand.
Yeah, your virtual
We've
hand.
got 1, 2,
Okay.
3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Yeah, I always recommend it to everyone. I have several adoptee friends who know they want to come eventually, but the thought of it gives them so much anxiety, and because it's not something they've allowed themselves to explore. And so it's like they have to work up just to get there. And so it is, yeah, it's overwhelming, but it's just it's my favorite thing. Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate what Marnie said about the gift of the attaching, you know, with people who get it, who can finish your sentences. That's a tremendous emotional kind of satisfaction. And probably why I continue to go to conferences. Sometimes the information is great, you know, for those of you that saw me, you know, Jeanette's adoptee support group that meets monthly in LA gave me the insight to listen to why adoptive parents adopt, so that I could understand my own adoptive parents better, because we were estranged and they've since passed. So the information is good, but I really go for the connection with people.
Absolutely.
That's what really feeds my soul. I want to change gears just for a second. If no one has tips that they found helpful for themselves post-conference, anyone want to share that quickly?
I'll just echo the peer support. That's just huge.
And that was Marcie Purcell, by the way. She has a great conference down in Austin every year. So
Awesome.
Marcie and AKA, they do a great, they put on a great conference down there.
Thanks, Ridge. We liked having you.
Yeah, I'd love being there.
Sorry, my video is not working. It's my bandwidth is low, but I'm appreciating this.
Yeah, my bandwidth is low too, which is why I cut out every now and then, but Amber said she wouldn't do this unless I was on video always, so.
I don't know. Okay, maybe.
I wanted to mention just a little bit about the number 3, take care of you, because my first point is a little complex in that article, and I'm just going to read it. I'm always trying to add fiber to my diet. Over the last couple of years, I've incorporated more plant-based proteins in order to incorporate more fiber. But for the week after the conference, I definitely try to have a salad or leafy greens throughout several meals all week long. And that's because fiber helps your intestines produce serotonin. And 70% of your serotonin chemicals are produced in the intestines. So if you don't have good fiber going in, you're basically running off of, 30%, maybe 50% of the serotonin your body can make. So for the week after the conference, I already know I'm going to go off a cliff. I miss my peeps. Nobody's finishing my sentences the way that they do. So getting salads, leafy greens, fiber means my gut has better health. And so it can produce more serotonin, and it helps me to overcome that drop off post-conference. And I just wanted to take a minute to explain that because it's a nutrition diet-based science thing that people may not know about. And so that's why that was the first part of my, take care of you. And then on the last one, I take things more slowly for the week after the conference. I'll schedule more time between meetings. See you, Marnie. Just so that I have that opportunity to take it easy, and let myself be a little off kilter. I don't have to be on for that whole week. So giving myself a little bit of time, knowing that I'm just going to move more slowly, move with a little bit more intention, think about all things. So those were just a couple of points from the article that I wanted to talk about. I don't know if Amber wants to talk more about journaling.
Oh, I had another one I forgot about, but it was the breathe point. But in this particular conference, of course, we had Jeanette's visualization technique. I am really I always recommend guided meditation, or just out of all the many things I have tried, I feel like for the past year, I've really, really tried to practice just embodiment and mindfulness, and just observing the things that are happening in my body, or the feelings or thoughts that are coming. And that, again, it's another one of those things that it sounds so simple, but it's been so informative and so helpful for me. One, just to not get swept up in any of, like, if I'm emotionally activated, just being carried away by that. It's helpful just to observe or make notes of it and write about it. But there were several times in the first week where I intentionally, I would notice I wasn't breathing really. I was holding my breath, or I was mindlessly doing something, or I was just feeling something. And so taking some time to just breathe really slowly and just be in my body. I don't know. I find that it helps me calm down and sort through things and process things more quickly. So I had said in the article, I think I feel like there were several talks where we learned several different techniques and skills. And so really that re-entry time is just the perfect natural first opportunity to start putting those things that we learned to practice, and trying to just, deal with that just stress or the feelings that we're having in a healthy way.
Yeah, that's great, Amber. And my last point was to make a thing, to be creative. For those of you that do listen to Adoptees On, Liz DeBetta has done 2 Adoptees On talks. And in the second one, the more recent one, Liz talks about how creating something helps to move feelings out of the body into the world. And so, one of the things that I like to do post-conference is just go back and, write, or make a film. In Boston, we shot all of those. We shot all of those interviews from adoptees, bio parents, about their adoption experience, and that became 6 Word Adoption Memoirs. So for those of you that are, leaving a conference, think about some creative output. Maybe nobody ever sees it, but it's moving. Yeah, it's moving that out of your body, and transmuting that into something that you can see, or that
She said that it gives it, I think I wrote this down, it gives things a place to live outside of you And that was something that I don't know that I would have understood. So earlier, I like to write, but I'm not a poet really at all. I don't write poetry, but earlier this year, I was going through something. And so I just turned that into like haikus and poetry. I made like a secret Instagram account that nobody knew about. And that there really is something, you feel it almost. You're taking something, you give it a place to live outside of it, and you can do whatever you want with it. You can make it into its own thing, and now it lives here. And it's so healing. It sounds simple again, but like that experience of it, as soon as I heard her say that, I was like, yes, I know exactly what that is. And I found another thing in these conferences, so many people are creative. So many adoptees are creative people. And I think some people are afraid to say that about themselves, or maybe they haven't been told that they are, but I think we all have some sort of creative inclination. And so, yeah, even if it's privately, just give yourself permission to make anything, and makes, oh, who is it? Is it Anne Lamott that says, I don't remember what she says about writing. Even if just
everything.
I know she says something about like, I don't know, lots of writers say like, you have to allow yourself to do things badly. Like, don't worry about the end product. Just make something terrible. Like, just make something for yourself, because it's so powerful.
I think she calls it the shitty first draft.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if that was her. Yes, that's her. You're right.
Yeah. Shitty first draft.
Mm.
Just get it out.
Yeah. Yes.
Nobody has to see.
So many times we stop ourselves from ever even trying because we're afraid of what it's going to be like, or it won't be good enough, and so we never even try. So.
Yeah. So I see that we've got Tina Brown in the room with us, and she's a liar.
I do so many
doing
things
many things badly.
No.
She's a liar. Just the way that Amber started off that whole thing, I'm not really a poet. I just published a book on poetry.
I'm guilty of it too.
So, not to plug Amber's book per se, but you can find it on Amazon. It's Haiku Poetry by Amber Jimerson. I know, right, Tina? Right. Yeah.
I'll write it. There we go.
Haiku Therapy. There you go. Okay, so that's kind of the article. Really, I started kind of the intro. I passed it off to Amber. Amber added a couple of things. We went back in and rearranged. And I really, I enjoy writing with another writer, because I don't always write down the things that I think I did. So having somebody else take a look at it and, and send it back, and they're like, what do you mean by this? I'm like, oh yeah, well, I forgot words. I didn't explain that thing. So to be able to see these, to trade that back and forth, to make changes, to think about what do I really mean? It shortcut that whole process. This article, while I've been working on it for a while, just like in processing it in my own life, it probably would have taken maybe another 2 weeks before I finally got into a more of a polished form if Amber hadn't been there to put in her comments, make changes. I see what she's saying. I ask questions. I come back. And so I really like that back and forth, that gets solidified in the article here. So yeah, I think those are the things. Barbara, yeah.
You know what? I love that synergy that you just described, because a lot of times when we, somebody said a little bit earlier about how the conferences, you've got the knowledge, there's a lot of information that was, it really was very jam-packed, full of great workshops and information. And then there's the emotional part of it. And a lot of times so if you get emotional in this, sometimes you do lose the words, or that you have a response, like maybe losing the words to really describe what's happening to you, or, the disconnect. You're trying to fight almost with your body, with your spirit, to just, okay, I got to stay in this moment because something is happening here. But yet at the same time, there's this practical knowledge thing that's going on, the act of being in the conference. And you two coming together to collaborate on this article demonstrated how it's very helpful to have people within the community reach out and help each other. And you don't know how you're going to do it. You don't know what you do to help someone else until it happens. Because this is very, it can be very intense when you experience it by yourself. But with other people, one person gets a little piece here, this person has this other piece, and you bring it together, then that's where I believe more healing comes.
Yeah. Your comment reminded me. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna mention to Barbara also, and the panel that was Saturday morning that you co-facilitated was a fine example of that.
It was so good.
Barbara, you still there?
I am still here. Oh, can you see me?
No.
We see your lovely picture.
Okay, that's good. Well, at least you can hear me because I'm in this car and it's like, I love technology, but it's like got me in safe driving mode. I'm parked. I'm not moving right now. So, yeah, hence my multitasking here, but no, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. It was a great moment for us. And that was a great experience, getting together. Again, not knowing who can bring what to the table, because each of us has our own journeys individually. But when we come together, magic can happen when we come into the room. And I loved seeing evidences of that.
It's one of my favorite things, Barbara, and everybody. It's called the dialectic. I have a life, I have experiences. Amber has a life, she's had experiences. And when I talk about some of my experiences and she's talking about her experiences, new ideas, new experiences are formed in the intersection of us talking about those experiences. And so new things get made. And I just fucking marvel at that all the time, at that new thing. I love it.
I was going to say something sort of off topic, but something Barbara said reminded me of it can be so intense in the conference. I know other people would just take breaks sometimes and just go sit by ourselves and just breathe for a moment. That was really helpful. So I don't know why that reminded me. Also, I had a very weird experience. Typically in real life, when I'm really emotional and I feel like I'm going to cry, I want to retreat. And I found in the conference, I had a moment where it was like, I wanted to cry. And the last thing I wanted to do was to go away from people. It's like, I want to cry and I want you to be near me, all of you. And can we just cry together? And that's so healing. It's so healing to be with people who are trying to heal together. So.
Naps are great, Lynn. I love naps. Hey, I want to go back to one of the comments in chat from Sandy. Sandy Smith. Yes, she's here.
She's still here?
I hope so.
Yes, hi. Yay.
Sandy.
I'm not driving.
Okay, good. All right.
The help unit is driving.
Sandy was talking about a fear of rejection.
Yeah.
Sandy was talking about not creating through a fear of rejection.
Yes, I was. There are so many things I want to write and so many ideas. And as soon as I start, the audience is in my head and I need to get them out. And the nice thing about being at the conference was that the audience in so many ways was an audience of peers that I don't normally have.
Yeah.
Really was the first time. I also felt very empowered when I came home. I had to jump in late because I was at my grandkids' soccer game, but I felt really empowered when I came back to speak my truth to people and not care. And not so much not care, but just be more me when I came back.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yay!
Yeah. It looks like a lot of people are agreeing. I feel you. Yeah.
I do want to talk a little bit about that idea of rejection, though, because Amber had shared a podcast with me from Tim Ferriss, right? And it's from the guy that created Internal Family Systems, Richard Schwartz. So it's on Tim Ferriss podcast, Richard Schwartz. I think it's like 489 or something like that. But that inner critic that pops up when you go to create a thing is actually a protector who has outlived their usefulness in your life. They were there at some point to keep you from harm. And they never, for them, it's always now. Like you're always at risk of being harmed. And so that protector loves you and wants you to be okay, and then tells you, so don't make that thing. And they don't understand that now you've got a different community. Now you have a different life than that initial rejection that you had. And so you need to approach that protector and say, I love you. Thank you so much for taking care of me. And I need to make a thing.
I'm going to put the information that,
Thank you, Bruce.
Oh, okay.
No
awesome.
bad parts.
Very
Yes.
awesome. So I'm going to put 40. Sorry. So I found this episode because I've heard of IFS actually through Adoptees On. And so I'd known about it for years. But in this episode, around that minute, they actually, they do sort of a demonstration. So he does it with Tim Ferriss. And that to me was such an eye-opening experience. And then I've used it so many times since then. So I just wanted to recommend that to just sort of experience that walkthrough of when you're, so usually whenever, not just when you're creating something, but if you're just emotionally, if you're triggered, if you're having a reaction, you don't understand why. I've went on a walk and just like done it in my head and like referred back to the podcast. It was very, very helpful.
And Tim gave us Richard Schwartz's newest book up there, No Bad Parts.
I know, I need to get that.
Yeah, me too. It was such an eye-opening thing, and that was another thing that came out of this, back and forth with Amber. She's talking about that podcast. I go listen to it, and it was just like boom, brilliant things come out. So love that, love that protector. Say thank you so much. And start to make things because you're in a different community now. Tina probably won't hop on to talk, but Tina's part of our Adoptee Voices writing group. And she's making brilliant things every week. So glad to hear her writing stories and talking about her experiences with creating worlds. And it's so good to listen to adoptees writing about anything. Not even their experience, just.
Do you want to talk about that group, what you do?
It's an 8-week thing. I'm not really here to pitch it, but
never mind.
Yeah, it's just an 8-week workshop. Sarah Easterly put it together. And so we've got people on Monday, people on Wednesday. We give you a prompt, you write for an hour, you come back, we talk. We have a large group where we talk about things like publishing or community, but it's 8 weeks at a time. So that's the Adoptee Voices writing group.
Sandy, I need clarification on your comment.
Yeah, Ridge already knew that I was in the position where I really wanted to leave my job. And so it was coming. But I just kept feeling like, what else am I going to do? But it wasn't really what I wanted to do. It's not what I feel called to do. So on the Monday I got back, I handed in my resignation.
So is October 7th your last day, Sandy?
It is, you got
Nice.
it.
Yay.
Wow.
October
I love
7th.
that.
Yes. There's just something about being seen that makes you realize, I think I want to keep being seen.
Yes. Amen. I love it.
Congratulations.
Oh, trust me, I needed out of that place. It was toxic.
Oh, I feel you.
Sandy, it's funny you say that because my week back, I had a rough day at a couple of rough days with a particular person at work. And within that week, I interviewed for another job, found another job, and gave my notice this past Monday.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Look what we've started.
Wow, you guys are so inspirational.
And it's because it's just like you, I felt so empowered. I was like, if I would have had that experience before the conference, I probably would have continued to take the abuse and just, I don't know, bear through it. But I was like, no, I am not going to be treated this way. I am who I am. And I was like, this other job popped up at the recruiter, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go for it. I can do this. And so to hear you say that, oh yeah, girl, if I could give you a hug right now.
And you give great hugs, Lori. You go, girl.
Oh, I love it.
Krista said she's part of a writing group too. You don't have to be part of Adoptee Voices writing group. We don't necessarily focus on primal wound stuff. We just have prompts around, different ideas. But I think writing in community, writing with adoptees, it's so helpful. Just like this whole community. I mean, just like going to conference, sitting down and grabbing lunch with somebody or hanging out afterwards. So, Ann said she's in the Monday group. Our next session starts, I think, first week of November. So this is week 4 coming up. Actually, it'll be week 3 for Ann on Monday. Yeah, but I'm just saying, just write, or get into a group of, creatives, where you're just sharing stuff.
Absolutely. I like Tina's comment, when creativity was an oddity in your adoptive family, we keep discovering things as we are encouraged within the adoptee community. Yeah.
That was my 6-word memoir, right? These people just aren't that funny.
Yeah.
Growing up, my adoptive family, like, I would say jokes all the time and I'm fucking funny, right? And they would not laugh. And until I understood that they weren't, like, I had no relationship and there was no biological relationship. And when I first met my bio dad, man, we just kept building on each other's jokes and we were sitting there laughing and everybody else is looking at us like, oh my God, you guys are crazy. And we're like, no, we're funny. We're funny, right? So yeah, those things that stand out that are unique to you, Tina, like writing creatively, now you're in your tribe.
Yeah. Mm.
Amber, are you on a computer?
Yes, why?
Can you grab Adoptee Voices writing group and throw it into the chat? Because I'm on the iPad. If I touch anything here, like, this thing's gonna go off the wheels again and I'm never coming back. Miss you too, Michelle. Although I get to see Michelle every week because she's on Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm. You just want the link for that?
Yeah, just to the main page. Yeah. Krista, there it is. Okay. Man, any questions that you have for us? I love seeing everybody here.
I know, that's so nice.
Yeah. And I'm just going to plug a couple of other things. David has Adoptees in Recovery, and Joyce does Adoptees in Reunion. And those are Tuesdays and Thursdays. Is that right? Okay. So Adoptee Paths to Recovery. Yeah. So there's lots of opportunities for connection within the NAAP community, Adoptee Network Cleveland, Jeanette, Celia, and Marcie. Do you have online things with AKA?
Well, we had an exciting book club last night, didn't we, Marcie?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we had a great time last night with Marcie. And we have an array of peer support groups. And then our virtual conference is in November.
Okay.
And
Great
it
to
was
know.
really good last year. Even though it was fully virtual, there was a lot of really good connection, I think.
Thanks, Bruce.
And Marcie, those dates on your conference are the 4th and the 5th?
That's right, November 4th and 5th.
Okay, what have I incorporated or learned? Let's see, from my notes. Well, my notes are very long. I learned a lot. And I don't know, I feel like it's, everyone will have different personal takeaways depending on where you are in your life. But for me, I think looking back, the panel was probably one of the most, just the biggest thing for me. I had realized it was like a slow realization. Just so many things happened from Thursday, just the whole time that was just building to this realization. I realized I do not commit to relationships. And I go all in and then I get burnt out or I get upset or I have, someone criticizes me. I loved that panel because I think if you're in really any community for a period of time, you get hurt or you hurt other people, you make mistakes, it's difficult. And sometimes at least me, I'm just like, well, you know what? I can do this on my own. I'll just learn all the stuff. I'll read all the books and just listen to all the podcasts. And I don't have to be in relationship with a community. I don't have to make myself vulnerable and be committed and be around and share things publicly and risk, criticism. And I just had this realization. I've done that with so many communities. And of course, that just comes back to, I think, something we all can relate to, just difficulty with attachment and relationships. And so that was a huge, very unexpected takeaway. I feel like there were several talks that hit on that topic in some way. And so just the importance of community and of, healing through healthy attachments and relationships. And it's like, I think we can do a lot of healing work alone or in therapy or, through learning, but at some point, the next step is, okay, now we have to go and find healthy relationships and we have to build attachments that were secure that we didn't have before. And that's where you're going to find like full healing. So I guess I have to do that. So. What was your takeaway, Ridge?
I'm going to go back to Saturday morning's conference. I loved Jeanette's thing, and I'm continuing to talk to Jeanette about that, and I thought it was fabulous. But Barbara had the idea where she's like, let's just talk about it. Let's just have a panel, and let's say whatever questions you got, let's talk about it. As a board, the next time we meet, or maybe in a email, I'm going to spoil Marcie. I'm going to recommend that just be Saturday morning. Let's just put panels up there. Let's talk about it. We want to talk about education. We want to talk about empowering. We want to talk about, all the things that just kind of get swept under the rug sometimes. I love that. I love that idea. So Barbara had a brilliant idea. And, for me, it's like, okay, let's get into it. What are the hard things? Let's talk about them. So I wouldn't mind seeing that, part of every conference, so long as it's useful.
Well, and honestly, so many communities should put that into practice. I forget who I was talking to about the panel. I don't remember who and they were saying like, oh, I was saying how great it was. And I'm like, yeah, I wish we could offer more solutions. I was like, no, like just acknowledging things all together in that room and just stating how things are. People need to hear that instead of, like you said, sweeping it under the rug. Like we avoid talking about things, or we just avoid people, and like just being upfront and saying like, this is how it is. This is a mistake that I've made. This is what, that is a solution right there. Just acknowledging it.
Other questions for us about the article, about the conference? You can raise a hand, throw a chat comment, jump in.
Yeah, when do we all get to be all together again? It's been already too long.
I know.
Yeah. Well, you can go to Cub. You can go to Cub. I'm gonna faux con Cub. So.
Are you
Marcie,
actually?
I think I am. Yeah, I think I am.
Yeah.
That's the October 22nd, 23rd, 24th. And Cub is good. Cub was created for biological parents. And so being a birth father, I thought, oh, okay, this would be cool. But it was really biological moms. So I felt on the outside, there. But Cub does good stuff. They've got great speakers. I met Amy Seek at Cub when I went, and I don't know if she's still in the chat today or, doing this, but Amy is a brilliant writer. She did God and Jetfire. So that was a tremendous, relationship to take away from Cub. And that book is amazing. God and Jetfire is so profound.
Yeah, that's very, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we should just get together for Thanksgiving. Let's all. Oh, yes.
Yeah, the holidays. That's a whole nother topic about how we can
Thanks,
be
Kelly.
triggered.
Yes. Yeah.
Tina asked if there's a bio parents conference, and Cub is kind of oriented more towards biological parents. But aside from that, it's more just adoption broadly. When the AAC was a viable conference, you have presentations on professional parent, adoptive parents, adoptees. Like it was, they had 50 presenters in a weekend. So, you wouldn't see 90% of the conference at any point in time. But now, I don't know if there's anything more oriented towards bio parents than Cub. Also, I thought about this earlier and I failed to mention it. Adoptees Connect, Pam Karanova's, they've got virtual and in-person meetings all over the US. So Adoptees Connect on Facebook is a good thing to grab.
Is David still on? I can't tell.
Yes, I am.
David, is there anything in Wisconsin near us? I'm in Greendale.
No, the face-to-face meetings have mostly been put on pause, but there's an organization called Wisconsin Adoption and Permanency Support, which hosts a myriad of meetings across the entire adoption community and lots of special interest. They started getting back to face-to-face groups, but they haven't done any for any adult adoptees. They're doing some birth mom groups, they're doing some adoptive parents groups, they're doing some educational groups, but that would be a resource to check out. Wisconsin Adoption and Permanency Support.
Got it, thanks.
Okay, any other questions for us? We don't want to hang on longer than outliving our usefulness here.
Does anybody need a copy of your article, the link to your article? Maybe they haven't read it.
I think Amber posted it on her new blog too, right?
I have yours up here. I'll post it.
Patty, you have a question? You want to type it in chat or ask it?
I'm sorry. I was just wanting to get a copy of the article and thought raising my hand would be a good thing, but realized I didn't have the whatever on the camera. And anyway, I apologize. Thank you.
No problem. Amber threw that in there.
For you. Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah. The only thing I would say, if you go to my site, many of the other articles are me talking about the grief journey that I've been on. So it's different. Don't poke around on my site, unless you're like deeply rooted in, wanting to listen about grief. It's not a lot of warm and fuzzies. So just a warning. It's great writing, but it's hard stuff. Okay, thanks for posting that, Amber. Yeah, thank you all.
Thanks for doing this, Amber and Reg. This was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For coming.
No, definitely. It was great that we had this time.
Yeah, we appreciate both of you.
Thank you. It was a great meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you all.
We appreciate both of you coming on this evening, and I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. I think I'm just going ahead and nominate you guys to do the post conference after party committee.
Yes.
Going forward, that's really a good idea. Going forward, we'll have to talk about that some more. But we really appreciate both of you coming on and sharing tips. And yeah, thanks a lot. Okay, we have anything before we close with and announce next week's guest? Anybody? Beth will go ahead and put a slide up for us and we'll talk about next week's guest. Okay, next week we have Yale Adler. She's a Romanian adoptee. Yeah. And she wrote a book called From Gypsy to Jersey. And we're going to talk more about her journey. This one. So I'd like everybody to make sure you mark the date and join us next week.
These are the cops who've been by. Lieutenant's in the so I should just find the bums like this.
That's everything for me, unless anybody has anything else. Thanks, everybody, and have a great week.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Great meeting.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.